very good morning and welcome to our Wednesday reflection from Holy Saviour Church in Hitchin. There are many fascinating snapshots of the life of first century followers of Jesus contained in the Acts of the Apostles. One such story can be found in Acts chapter 20 and concerns a man called Eutychus who dies and lives again. The story is based in Troas, which we would know better as Troy, in what is now the Aegean coast of Turkey. The intense summer heat of the area and the hard manual labour of many meant socialising and eating would take place quite late at night. Meetings of those of the way of Jesus were often called a love feast. They shared food, heard stories of Jesus, and participated in active discussion of what had happened a few decades earlier in Palestine and what it all meant. In the story of Eutychus, the Apostle Paul is said to have talked on and on in the heat of an upstairs room. Maybe we should view such a description as Paul just never giving up on expounding the good news of Jesus, which had so greatly encountered and changed him. At the gathering, Eutychus was sitting on the window ledge overlooking the house courtyard, trying to find a cool breeze. The unbearable heat, coupled with his tiredness from his day job, overwhelmed him, and Eutychus fainted and fell 3 floors into the courtyard below. Did Eutychus truly die from the impact of the fall? Well, in a sense, God knows. However, as Paul stood over the body, Eutychus is declared alive and kicking. So round 2 of supper follows, this time the Lord's Supper, followed by more discussion, with all rejoicing and thanking God in the great good fortune Eutychus is well. What do we learn from this rather lovely story? Well, church for a start, as we know it, did not exist then, but there was a good company and intent listening about the Jesus story over food and wine. The gathering had little ceremony, and there were people from many ways of life, masters and slaves, just sitting next to each other, taking things in. There were no emergency service as we know it, that we might expect today. In a sense, we must assume many injured in those days were probably declared dead, when actually many were still alive. In a sense also, Eutychus, whose name means fortunate, was lucky that so many present, including Paul, were able to care for him deeply and for his recovery. Luke the writer is probably more implying that it was a miracle that Eutychus still lived given how far he had fallen. There is perhaps a view that our modern day world and our Christianity over-formalises relationships and the paraphernalia of its acts and places of worship, whereas the early Christian gatherings were a much more spontaneous and hugging fellowship, which provided great release and comfort from a world dominated by Roman oppression, poverty, sickness and hunger. The story of Jesus was liberating both the souls of the downtrodden and opening the hearts of some rich citizens that caring for those less fortunate really did matter. Add to all this the wonder of Eutychus's considerable fall and recovery, and it really must have seemed that an salvific God was truly wide in his mercy and truly alive in the world. The interesting question for Christians today is whether we have lost sight of the essence of an ever faithful and loving God, which is manifest in the grace of Jesus Christ. The sense of the divine in Jesus clearly spoke to his early followers above the drudgery and fear of worldly life. The sense of the divine spoke of a compassion and a hope in little miracles which built a holy, dutiful, but unfussy and humble fellowship. Today we think, despite our many difficulties, we can manage to muddle along proudly and stubbornly without recourse to a God. The story of Jesus, even a few years after his crucifixion and rising, define that we can only manage our difficulties if we turn to God and believe miracles of salvation really can take place when our lives seem almost dead or devastated. Our hymn today is O God Beyond All Praising. To a tune by Gustav Holst, it sings of the God that is above all, active in all, and caring for all, and who is wholly worthy of our praise in Jesus, rather than our shunning. Thank you for listening, and God bless and have a wonderful week.